around the nation. TYD Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. It's Monday. Welcome back to the weekend. Hope everybody had a good weekend, but we're back. We got a lot of stories for you guys today. Fun stuff, as usual, including the deteriorating mental condition of the President of the United States. Very important / disaster. Then we have literal political correctness inside the Trump administration. I know. Shocker, right? Then we have a little bit of awareness and who Trump is most afraid of, or I should say, what one of the things Trump is most afraid of in the upcoming election. That's a great story. You're gonna love that. We also have Jerry Falwell exposed. I don't know if literally, but great expose on him about what they're actually doing at Liberty University. So that's an amazing story. And then we're going to make fun of Laura Ingraham trying to make fun of liberals. I know. Every once in a while you come across something that's some amount of, I assume to be satire, that is so amazingly dumb from the right wing. Again, I would assume that it's satire, but maybe not. And that's the crazy part. Maybe not. Maybe they were serious. I don't know. But you just gotta critique it. You gotta watch it. It's absolute insanity. You know what? That's the world we live in today. So, welcome to this insane show. Talking about I started the show talking about politics and political issues, right? And now we live in the worst timeline. We live in a clown show. And so, of course, what do I have to talk about than the circus? Because that is what's going on. We live in a circus. Okay. Anyway, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. And, very, very important that you help out that way. Also another way that you can help out, I kind of mashed those two words together there, is patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. I want to thank a few of you right now. I want to thank Janet Eason. These are my super members that pay $10 to help out the show every month. Jasper Grayson, John Murphy, Karen Silt, Kimberly Buckley, and Lisa Hammond. So more super members. Extra special thanks to you guys and gals for supporting us. $10 a month. That's a decent chunk of money. And so I really, really appreciate you giving that much to allow us to continue to do the show. So thank you to the super members, and thank you to all the patrons, as well as people signing up to support us through our channel memberships, people who give on PayPal, the people who Venmo, all you guys are just amazing and fantastic, and thank you. All right, so let's start out with our president, El Presidente Insane. I don't know what to call him anymore. Okay. All right. Now, President Trump's aides are getting more and more concerned about his mental state following days of insane outbursts, according to Business Insider. Now, they spoke to sources inside the White House and familiar with the situation, and they got some fun quotes. So let me go to one former White House official who spoke on the condition of anonymity, of course. He told Business Insider, quote, "Nobody knows what to expect from him anymore." That's interesting. They said, "It's because his mood changes from 1 minute to the next based on some headline or tweet. And the next thing you know, his entire schedule gets tossed out the window because he's losing his shit." Yikes. Yeah, look, I know this has been going on for the last couple of years, so you guys aren't shocked. So now the question, I guess, is has it been getting worse? Because honestly, I can't tell anymore. I don't even know. All metrics of normality have been broken. We live in this the like we're living in the proximity of a tear in the space time continuum of stupid that he has ripped a hole into. And I just don't know where we're at anymore. What's normal anymore, guys? I don't know. I don't know. Has he been getting worse? Has he been getting dumber? Or was he always this dumb? I can't even tell anymore. This is again the insanity that we live in, right? So now sources told the Insider that the president's advisors are particularly worried about his stubborn refusal to acknowledge that a tweet he sent over the weekend claiming that Alabama was going to be hit by the Hurricane Dorian, was false. They believe that his frustration is compounded by stress about the 2020 election and the economy's recent downturn. One former official had said, quote, people are used to the president saying things that aren't true, but this Alabama stuff is another story. This was the president sending out patently false information about a national emergency situation as it was unfolding. Now, again, look at this sentence, right? They're basically saying, yeah, the president lies all the time. We know he lies all the time. He says false things every day. I mean, thousands of times within the last couple of years. We know he lies. We know he lies. We're in the inside. We hear it all the time, right? But this lie was above all the other lies because he was lying about something that put people's lives in danger. Now, this had one Republican strategist who was in frequent contact with the White House saying to Business Insider on Friday, quote, he's deteriorating in plain sight. Asked why the president was obsessed with Alabama, that same strategist said, quote, you should ask the psychiatrist about that. I'm not sure I'm qualified to comment. Ouch, man. Ouch. And you know what? You want to speak about qualifications? That's okay. You can speak anyway. You know why? Because, look, Trump wasn't qualified to be president in the first place. Nobody needs to be qualified for anything anymore, which is why earlier today I actually just applied to be a pilot because I have no training and a fear of heights. Because nothing means anything anymore. I'm not serious about being a pilot. But that's the way it seems, you know? In fact, it seems like the more educated that you are, the less people, at least people on the right, tend to think of you. Because there is a section of this country that literally hates facts, they hate education, and happen to overwhelmingly support Donald Trump. Because, of course. So, more quotes here. Anthony Scaramucci. Now, Scaramucci is former White House communications director, and he's now never Trump, reformed Trump supporter. He's talking about it all the time, and I tend to think that it's a little bit cynical, or I think in a more cynical way that it's more politically calculated, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever, right? He weighed in. He said this. He said, "quote I think the president is in severe mental decline, and I'm not saying that now because I'm a political adversary or I disavowed him. I'm saying that objectively, just looking at what's going on." But again, see, we've already known this. We see this. I've been saying this for quite some time. Scaramucci and some of the others, you guys are super late to the party. Like this has been known for quite some time. In fact, there was an op-ed last year that said, "Hey, look, Trump's an idiot. We know Trump's an idiot. We know he's mentally unfit. We know he regularly ignores the laws, throws fits. He's easily distracted, has no idea what he's doing. We know all that stuff. But we also know that we will not use our power under the Constitution, the 25th Amendment, to remove him." In the 25th Amendment, in case you weren't sure of what that was, that allows the cabinet to get together and say, we believe this president is mentally unfit for office, and we will use our power to remove him from that office for his own safety and for the country's own safety. That cabinet, they had enough to write a strongly worded letter saying, yes, everything that you've been saying about him being mentally unfit is completely true. But that's it. They didn't have the balls, they didn't have the spine to actually say, but now we're going to do something about it, and we're going to remove it. Maybe it's because they are scared of his rabid base. I don't know. But now, those so-called adults in the room, most of them who could have done something, they're gone. Either fired or they quit. And have all been replaced, essentially, with ass-kissing sycophants. Because, unfortunately, that's what's going on here. Now, one more interesting tidbit from this. One person who was close to Trump's legal team during the Russia investigation told Business Insider that his public statements, Trump's, were nothing compared to what he's like behind closed doors. The person said, quote, he's like a bull seeing red. There's just no getting through to him. And you can kiss your plans for the day goodbye because you're basically stuck looking after a 4-year-old now. Our president is a 4-year-old throwing a tantrum. I know. These are people who are close to him. Those are people who see him every day, know him, or at least were very close to people who did. And they found this behavior. This is not normal. And I keep having to say this because once we stop saying this is not normal, is the time where it starts becoming normal. And this kind of crap cannot be normalized. This kind of behavior can and should not be normalized. Because I'm afraid of what happens afterwards. If this is considered normal, then what do you have to do to really, be considered a danger to this country? He is mentally unhinged. He is unfit for office, and nobody is going to do anything about it. I mean, if only we had someone in a position. Now, since we don't have the cabinet that's willing to do the 25th Amendment, if only we had somebody in the position where they could actually do something, somebody who maybe speaks for the people who represent us, perhaps in the House of Representatives, or if we had a House of Representatives, right? But, of course, there seems to be nobody there that's willing to do that, who's actually willing to do the right thing and to, do something, right? To do the right thing, impeachment perhaps, to get this president who is mentally degenerate out of the White House. And we just don't have anyone who's capable of doing that. Sad. Man. Moving on. The Trump administration is now using political correctness to protect the president. So this is according to a great article by the Washington Post. I don't say that very often, but in this case, it is pretty good. A top official with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration had warned staffers last week not to contradict President Trump and his claims about the path of Hurricane Dorian. Of course. So now this small thing has turned into the biggest crap storm I've ever seen. I mean, look, let's go through some of the details, okay? Now, there's an email obtained by the Washington Post that was sent last Sunday that's just hours after Donald Trump tweeted that Alabama would most likely be hit much harder than anticipated by Hurricane Dorian. Now, projections at the time said, actually, no, that's not going to happen. They're Alabama is pretty much going to be untouched. They're fairly safe, right? Uh, Despite that, President Trump says no, they're going to get hit much harder. Now, the official at the NOAA told staffers who are tasked with accurately providing information during life or death situations, right? Very important job, to quote, only stick with official National Hurricane Center forecasts if questions arise from some national level social media posts which hit the news this afternoon. Now, what does that mean? Social media posts. Well, it's a reference to the National Weather Station in Birmingham, Alabama. That is the Twitter account that corrected President Trump's false assertion. They contradicted him and said, actually, no, Alabama's going to be okay. How do we? Because we're right here. We're here in Birmingham, and we have access to the facts. And as right now, there is no indication that Hurricane Dorian would have hit Alabama at this time. Now, look, it's their job to push facts. It's their job to talk about what we know from the projections, right? To the best of their knowledge. And of course, weather forecasting is somewhat difficult, right? And sometimes they get it wrong. But the whole point is to prepare people. Lives are on the line here, okay? So very important that they get things as accurate as possible to make sure that people are aware ahead of time. And also to prevent false panic. And that's the other thing, right? So if President Trump had been unchallenged, say, oh, the Hurricane Dorian, it is going to hit much harder in Alabama. Well, what are people in Alabama going to do? Well, if there's no facts there and nobody pushing back against Trump's narrative, then there would be a run on stores, right? To make sure people are properly supplied, people would be afraid. They would, some would get out of the area, et cetera, right? They would prepare as if they were going to get hit by it for no reason. Now, all that preparation takes time, takes money, right? And of course, there's unnecessary panic. That is why you should rely on, the actual forecasts than some jackass with a Twitter account. And I'm not talking about the Birmingham NWS. I'm talking about unfortunately, the President of the United States. But see, here's the thing. Trump doesn't care about facts. No, what he cares about is being right. And of course, the people around him also prop him up. He's surrounded by a bunch of yes men, a bunch of ass kissers, which is why they're like, we have to use political correctness against these people who would try to prove Trump wrong by using actual facts. That's what this is going on. Okay, that's what's going on here. So now, the NOAA meteorologist who talked to the Post, he said this, quote, "This is the first time I felt pressure from above, not to say what is truly the forecast." This is amazing. And he said furthermore that, quote, "It is hard for me to wrap my head around. One of the things we train on is to dispel inaccurate rumors, and ultimately that is what was occurring. Ultimately, what the Alabama office did is to provide a forecast with their tweet. That is what they get paid to do." And that was enough to trigger President Trump. I mean, this is absolute insanity. People pressuring other people to not actually say what's true in a weather forecast to avoid not making the baby embarrassed. Which, of course, by the way, he embarrassed himself anyway, because that's basically all he does. Lie and embarrass himself. And he can't let it go. He can't let it go. He can't let it go. But the NWS, they did nothing wrong. Birmingham especially. They get paid to do facts. What Trump does is he wants to do propaganda. And this is dangerous, by the way. And hey, look, on the subject of political correctness, right? I thought Republicans and Donald Trump himself hated political correctness. I remember him talking about, PC culture. Oh, the Democrats, they want to be politically correct. Well, what is this? This is actual political correctness. The government is making sure to silence actual facts and information in order not to hurt dear leaders' feelings. Obvious political correctness. Now, there's more. As the Post explains, the NOAA was already under fire for appearing to side with Trump over its own scientists. Again, more political correctness, right? The agency sent out a statement on Friday in which it criticized the Birmingham office for its tweets. An NOAA official, also speaking anonymously, told the Post that, quote, there was no political motivation behind that statement and said that the tweet from the NWS was singled out because an earlier NOAA hurricane forecast did show a 5 to 20% chance of tropical storm force winds in one small part of Alabama. That still doesn't line up with what Trump had said. And not only that, but it also doesn't explain the presence of certain inaccuracies. Now, those wind speeds, for example, they rarely cause the damage Trump had suggested in this tweet. And Alabama was not in the National Hurricane Center's cone of uncertainty when Trump had tweeted. By the way, I think at this point we are all living in a cone of uncertainty. So the timeline doesn't add up. So now some of you might be wondering, look, I know, right? But Donald Trump, why does it matter? Okay, he lies. He lies every day. He lies so much and about everything. Why not just let it go? Why harp on this over and over and over again? Well, here's the thing. The reason is we believe in facts. We believe in truth. And not only that, we don't believe in political correctness. And that's exactly what this is. This is the government saying to its own agency, you will not contradict the president, even when he's wrong, because it is politically inconvenient. It is just easier for someone who lies all the time to get his way, and so he can continue lying to make himself feel better. Well, wait. I thought it was facts over feelings. What happened? What happened? It seems to me that this administration runs on feelings over facts when it comes to the president and his ridiculous tweets. That's what's going on here. And look, facts don't matter anymore now. Only Trump's feelings, only the feelings of the dear leader. I mean, if you're a Republican, how can you defend this? If you do, you're a complete and utter fraud. You don't care about facts. You don't care about people's lives. You care about feelings and the feelings of a mentally deficient man-child. I mean, one of the people in this administration says, look, he's basically like a 4-year-old. This guy is King Joffrey. And he is literally okay with lying and putting people at risk in order to just be right. This is not normal. We got to get him out of there. All right. Moving on. Now, there is a new report in the Daily Beast that shows what Trump is truly afraid of when it comes to 2020. So now, Republicans have been running on the idea that giving people guaranteed health care through a cheaper, single-payer, government-run insurance system through Medicare is basically Soviet-style communism. And that student loan debt relief, for example, or forgiveness is evil socialism, and we do that, we're going to be eating rats like Venezuela. So now, those policies actually are fairly popular with young people who are now set to become the largest voting bloc in the country. Now, that same voting bloc happens to favor Senator Bernie Sanders and these policies by a very large margin. And that apparently has Trump and the administration incredibly nervous. Now, this is according to the Daily Beast. While in public, the Republicans, again, they trash socialism and said socialism will never happen in this country, ever. But in private, the president's saying, actually, it might, because it's kind of a good message. Um, Now, let me give this quote here from the article. In private, the president strikes a different, more nuanced tone, which is amazing considering how it's President Trump here. One driven by a concern that socialism, at least as defined by Democrats, may actually sell politically. Now, let me stop there, right? So that's important. Socialism, at least as defined by Democrats, right? Mainly defined by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, right? So now Bernie Sanders, he calls himself Democratic Socialist. He's actually a social democrat. Now, Elizabeth Warren's capitalist to her bones, right? But even she is promoting social democratic ideas in the form of at least eliminating student debt up to a certain percentage. And we've gone over those policies. And on these policies, Bernie Sanders is unapologetically the most progressive candidate. 100%. So now, social democracy, as I said before, or what is democratic socialism of Bernie Sanders, is not the complete nationalization or takeover of the entire economy. That is not what we're talking about. No, we're talking about European-style Nordic social democracy, where there are some industries that are nationalized and a very generous welfare program, but there's also very competitive capitalism as well. It is a mixed market system and actually has led to incredible results. And look, we even used to have a much more robust mixed market economy here in the United States. Now it leans much more favorably towards the corporations and the incredibly wealthy. So now, again, social democracy, right? Now, some of the things that they've talked about, nationalization, right, is possibly the energy production sector when it comes to climate change, when it comes to the Green New Deal. Not only that, but also the nationalization of health insurance, not health care, which was more of the UK model, but health insurance. And basically, what is a Medicare program expended to everybody, right? So now that I have those definitions out there and an explanation, let me go to more of the article. This year, Trump has repeatedly told friends and donors that running against, quote, socialism in a general election may not be so easy because of its populist draw, according to 4 Republicans and sources close to Trump who've heard him say this over the past several months. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, that is the direct opposite of what establishment Democrats, Third Way, the DLC are all talking about. They're like, no, you can't run to socialism. You're going to get destroyed by Republicans in a general election. Are we? Now, here's Trump saying, no, I'm really worried about this. If they run a populist progressive campaign based on these ideas of forgiving student loan debt and doing national health insurance, which, by the way, Trump, when he was running, he ran as a pseudo-populist, and he talked about our health insurance. It's going to be so great. Nobody's going to die on the street. Everybody's going to have insurance, and it's going to be cheaper. What he was doing is he even gave credit to, I think it was Ireland's single-payer system. I don't know if it was Ireland or Australia. It could have been both. But he said, look, you people in Australia, you have better health care than we do. Australia has ironically, it's called Medicare for all there too. So, or it's a Medicare for all system there. So, yeah, he's worried. Now, you might also be thinking, wait a minute here. Trump actually is making sense on this. Oh, look, Trump's a stupid guy. He's a dumb person. But he understands how to run a populist campaign. How do you do that? You just tell people what they want to hear or what you think they want to hear. See, one of the things, and I cannot believe that the media has not caught on to this, right? They still haven't caught on to this. It turns out that when you tell people what they like to hear, they generally like it. Again, I don't understand how nobody picks up on this. Media, the Democratic Party, etc. Right? But what they also miss is that throughout his campaign, he would basically A/B test the audience. He would say something, and if it doesn't get applause, he'd drop it. Right? But if he says something else and it gets a massive applause line, like a lot of the racist stuff, because he's talking to a Republican audience, that, I mean, that went really well, and he decided to keep it. Let me give you an example. Drain the swamp, right? Drain the swamp. So he started saying, oh, let's drain the swamp. And then in interviews afterwards, he's like, well, it played well. He's like, I thought it was a little goofy, a little hokey, but it played really well. So I just kept saying it. Because it was super popular. It turns out people don't like the corruption inside of Washington. Even Republicans don't like the corruption inside of Washington. They actually like representatives that represent them. And they don't like, and I know, at least at the local level, Republican politicians, it's a loss at the national level. Complete waste, right? Every one of those Republicans essentially is corrupt. But you get to the state and local level, a lot of these Republican politicians, even if I don't agree with them on a lot of policy or most policy, we both agree that we don't like wealthy billionaires from out of state coming in and buying the elections. And you ask local Republicans, hey, would you like to have someone from, California or New York or whatever state come in and buy your elections? And they say, hell no. Hell no. And that's why groups like Wolfpack have actually had some decent success in a lot of these smaller states, even with Republican legislatures. They don't like people buying off their government either. I know, right? Crazy. So look, again, Donald Trump is actually right about this, which, again, amazing, right? He understands that people like populism, which is, again, amazing to me that nobody else seems to get it. Now, of course, he phrases populism in a different way, at least when it comes to stuff that Bernie Sanders is talking about. And he says it's free stuff, right? And that's, of course, a Republican narrative. He says, well, who doesn't like free stuff? I like free stuff. According to a person who was in the room, Trump had told donors at a recent private event that though a lot of people think it'll be easy to beat in 2020, socialism, right? The truth is it might not be easy. The president, according to the source, said that you can have someone who loves Trump, but many people love free stuff too. He added that if candidates tell Americans, especially young voters, that they're going to cancel their debt, that's a tough one to run against. Now, what does Trump know the most? Debt. Why? Because he's always in debt. He literally called himself the king of debt. He's like, I borrow lots of money, I take on lots of debt, and then I go bankrupt. Haha, suckers. Haha, taxpayers. Haha, businesses and banks that, loan me money. You should have never trusted me because I'm the king of debt. So he knows that. And so he thinks, man, I would love it if somebody canceled my debt. In fact, I've done it 6 times. I've had my debt canceled and wiped out through bankruptcy. So yeah, I get it. So if I tell them that I'm going to cancel your debt, well, they're going to be about as happy as I am when the government cancels mine. And by the way, student loan debt is the only debt that cannot be wiped out through bankruptcy proceedings. So Donald Trump can wipe his debt all day, right? 6 times. But the student that took out $100,000 in debt and still couldn't find a job in his field, or even worse, went to a predatory for-profit institution, they can't have their debt wiped through bankruptcy. But Trump can. So he looks at that and he says, oh boy, Bernie Sanders wants to cancel $1.6 trillion of student loan debt. And I doubt he could recite the number. Boy, that's tantalizing. I'd take that deal. Well, of course. Who wouldn't want to take that deal? And I know that there are actually some people that are like, no, I would definitely not take that deal. Yeah, okay. I respectfully disagree with you on that one. But anyway, yeah. Now, again, Debt cancellation for college, especially predatory colleges, right? For-profit universities, is incredibly popular among young people. Now, the other thing is, again, I want to push back against the free stuff thing, right? No. It's not free stuff. It's actually paying for things that benefit society. It's your taxes actually going to help you instead of going to rich people and corporations in the forms of giant subsidies like what we give to the oil companies, right? So now, uh, so one of Trump's allies, right, uh, Eric Bolling, had said he talked to Trump about this, right? And he said, I discussed the popularity of the Democratic Socialist message, i.e., Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren's capitalist to her bones, let's be honest. That's a quote from her. Um, she's someone who more wants to keep the general system in place, but make improvements to it. Um, she said, or I'm sorry, Bolling said that he spoke about their plans with Trump on more than one occasion and in person. And he said, quote, specifically the idea of excusing debt and giving away, as Trump says, free stuff is becoming more and more popular among younger voters. And that's true because we have finally realized how much we were really screwed. Now, again, growing up, all we heard was you go to college, you're going to get a good job. You go to college, you take out a whole bunch of money, but don't worry, you'll be able to pay it back in no time because you'll get these jobs with six figures and you will be incredibly successful. So just go to college and you will be smart and you will make lots of money. Now, obviously, that's not real at all. And look, we were growing up. We should have been more skeptical of it, perhaps. Then again, when you're 18 and you're able to take out 20, 30, $40,000 at a time in order to pay for schooling, I mean, look, when you're young, you tend to make some not good financial decisions, and then you end up learning from it. The thing about this is this student loan debt, and it's roughly about 30 to 40,000 is the average, right? But some can go as high as 150, $200,000. Well, that's a lot of money, and it can take a lifetime to pay back, especially if the jobs that you were going for don't exist or end up not being as easy to get into. So there is that situation. So when you talk about debt forgiveness uh, to those students, yeah, it is really popular. It is. So now it's not just about debt cancellation for student loan borrowers. There's also a lot of different issues that Bernie Sanders talks about and has a remedy for. For example, massive wealth and income inequality. No, Elizabeth Warren herself has a wealth tax, and I think that's a great idea. And you also have a lot of these plans. Again, Green New Deal, jobs just, basically economic justice plans from both of those candidates in order to address that wealth and income inequality. You also have the massive student loan debt, as I mentioned, medical debt. Now, that's also important, right? Because, again, medical debt is a thing that shouldn't exist. It only exists here. It doesn't exist in other countries. And there's a lot of people that are suffering from that. Also, people that can't afford to get health insurance that's affordable. People that die because they can't afford their medications because it's so expensive, even with insurance at some points. And so you have all these different problems, right? And a lot of those problems are facing younger people, millennials. Look, we're in our 30s now. And so we're not just some, kids that are fresh out of college. No, we've been in the real world and it kind of sucks. And so we also have access to the internet. We have the access to facts. And so we can look at all these issues that exist here in America that don't exist as much in other places. So we can look at other countries like Canada that has, a single payer healthcare, right? We can look at the UK that has a nationalized health service. And we can listen to people like Bernie Sanders online. And we can look up the facts and we can look at the studies. And it makes us think, wait, what allows those other countries to do those things, to be able to have those things while we can't? Now, the truth is we can do these things. And we can do them better, I think, than anyone else. You know why? Because we're freaking America. Just go ahead and tell us we can't do something. And we'll do it better than anyone else. Guaranteed. But unfortunately, our politicians, both right and left, keep telling us, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do any of this stuff. Oh, no, we can't do better than Canada. We can't do better than the UK. We can't do better than these Nordic countries. No. We can't do that because we got to get all the tax cuts to the rich. The rich are supposed to have everything, and you can't have. That's why you can't have nice things. Well, screw that. Screw that. Now, bowling. He did mention that these, a little bit of a walk back. He said, look, Trump talked to me about mid 2019, but quote, I feel it was more of an observation than a re-election concern of the president. I feel the discussion was more of a tamping down of expectations than any serious concern about winning re-election in 2020. It's politics. Just look to Joe Biden, who recently suggested Iowa isn't a must-win state. Well, look, bowling, no respect here, but Joe Biden says a lot of stupid things. So let's be honest. I mean, he is incredibly gaffe prone. But no, what Trump did is he actually made one of the most politically astute observations since 2016. Which, by the way, 2016, he used a similar kind of populism in order to beat Hillary Clinton. Now, she got beaten in these battleground states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. She got more votes, the Electoral College. We all know that, right? But part of that he was able to appeal to people, yes, there was blatant racism, and that was a major factor. Also, Hillary's unlikability, but also some of this populism as well. And so I wouldn't discount the role of fake populism as it is. If it's one thing that Donald Trump knows, it's how to appeal to people. He did it with the racists, obviously. He did it with the brick throwers, people that were tired of the establishment and the status quo, who have now, by the way, abandoned him. And he does it with his fans. Again, it's because that's the only skill that he has, is to be able to shamelessly lie to people and tell them what they want to hear. This is why, over the last year, the president, his campaign, the Republican National Committee, and others have screamed and whined about socialism. Now, look, this is something they've done for a long time, true. But now it's getting to a fevered pitch because now they have somebody that they can actually point to and say, oh, look, Democratic Socialist. But here's the thing. That's why Bernie Sanders is going to win. Because once people realize, and they're starting to, that kind of, these kind of policies that are being derided as socialist are actually incredibly popular, that they actually agree with. Over 67% of Americans favor a single-payer Medicare for all. Now, for debt cancellation, we're not quite there yet, right? But for a student debt plan like Elizabeth Warren's, 57% of Americans actually support that. So total student debt forgiveness has a little bit of ways to go in the polling. And I think in order to get it to a better position, you actually have to explain the economic benefits of that student debt cancellation. But it's very popular among young people, right? I'm totally in favor of it because of those economic benefits. But all of this, plus Bernie Sanders and his dedicated base, great polling numbers versus Donald Trump, and his ability to appeal both to independent and Republican voters, as well as with a large majority of Democrats, that's hard to beat. That's really hard to beat. Trump himself has been impressed by Sanders' ability to fire up his base, take in small dollar donations, and attract big crowds, though not, in the president's words, as good as Trump. Because, of course, it is Donald Trump, and he has to say that. He gets good crowds, but not as good as Donald Trump. Yeah, okay. So what I get from this is he is deeply worried. He is very concerned. Make no mistake, Donald Trump fears Bernie Sanders. Because Trump knows, as dumb as he is, he can read a poll. As dumb as he is, he can read people, right? And he knows that Bernie Sanders is one of the only that can not only just beat him, but absolutely annihilate him at the polls. He knows. He knows. And he will if Bernie Sanders becomes the nominee. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We got Liberty University, the insane details of that, and Laura Ingraham tries to drink a steak. We'll be back around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay. Super chat real quick here. This is from Sarge Tech. It says, now the Trump family crime syndicate wants to be a political dynasty like the Kennedys, Ivanka, and Trump Jr. as the future of the Republican Party. So do you guys remember when I was talking about the beef between Donald Trump and Mike Pence? And how one of the main things that operatives said, political operatives between the two camps said would make Trump feel better if Mike Pence would say that he is not running in 2024. That right there is the reason. It's Donald Trump wanting to run his family, Ivanka or Don Jr., to be the next president of the United States. There's your answer to why not only is that story 100% true, but why that story as well has come out. So there it is. Political dynasty, the worst one in the world. All right, moving on. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. All right. Let's go to Liberty U. More than 24 current and former Liberty University officials have now come out privately and exposed the truth about Jerry Falwell Jr. So now they talked to Politico and they talked about how they have a growing disenchantment of Falwell Jr. and the way he runs the university. It was harder to get out than it should have been. Now, they even went so far as to describe his handling of the university as a, quote, dictatorship. We'll get to that. All right. So now, many university employees, past and present, had agreed to speak anonymously to reporter Brandon Ambrosino, a Liberty graduate, for an article published by Politico. Now, that's despite signing non-disclosure agreements. So every employee who works at Liberty has to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And so if it's revealed that they talked to Politico, that they talked to the press, they could get into serious legal trouble for what they have to say. Now that means what they have to say is pretty big. In fact, one longtime current employee with ties to the Falwells said, quote, I feel like I'm betraying them in some way by talking to the press, essentially. Quote, but someone's got to tell the freaking truth. Well, I am all for that, man. Tell you what. Now, what is the truth? What is the truth? What's so bad that it gets people who are very clearly close to the family and supporters of the university, people who work for the university, who agree with all this stuff, to start speaking out? Well, the what's being revealed is let's get to it. I didn't have words. Okay. Liberty sources have revealed that Falwell had a little bit of an interesting nightlife. Apparently, he would party at nightclubs and would graphically discuss his sex life with employees. All right, but not horrible, nothing that we don't expect from Republicans already. Let me give you some details about that first. Now, one former official said, quote, all he wanted to talk about was how we would nail his wife, how she couldn't handle his penis size, and stuff of that sort. Okay, TMI, gross. There was also an alleged picture of Becky Falwell in a French maid uniform that was sent out to Liberty University staff via email by apparently mistake. Yikes. Oh no, that was supposed to go to the personal trainer, by the way. I don't know why. Maybe to show him how good of a job he did by the French maid uniform. Okay, look, some people are into that. Look, unlike people at Liberty University, I'm not going to judge too harshly on the sexual stuff. Interesting, kind of gross, but not the worst part. No. There's more. There was also an alleged. There was also, more importantly, information that he and his wife had been consolidating power and directing university resources to enrich themselves. Now, these university resources would end up going to real estate projects. Huh. In fact, one senior university official with knowledge of Liberty's finances said this, quote, we're actually not a school. We're a real estate hedge fund. Interesting for something that says university. Quote, we're not educating. Well, that's obvious. We're buying real estate every year and taking students' money to do it. Financial corruption. So to me, that's a way bigger scandal than Falwell Jr. being an obvious hypocrite and talking about his sex life and partying all the time. Okay. Again, we expect that, hypocrisy, whatever. But no, they're literally taking students' money and not putting into education programs, but they're using it to buy up real estate. And look, let me be honest, and this isn't part of the story, but every time I see people buying up lots of real estate, it makes me think, are they laundering money? That's my question about that. Are they laundering money? Okay, but anyway, now this is supposed to be a non-profit university, right? But as of late, the last 10 years or so, Liberty University has actually grown by leaps and bounds. Now, since the time Falwell Jr. took over after the death of his father, the original Jerry Falwell, founder of the Moral Majority, the university has grown its assets of just, at the time, 2007, about $259 million. So that was 2007. That's how many assets they had. Now, their assets surpass 2.5 billion in 2017 and around 3 billion today. Oh, for a nonprofit school, they seem to be buying up a lot of profitable real estate. And of course, I've got more details into what they're actually building on that real estate, by the way. So now there's a lot of people wondering, where's that money going from the students? Now, according to emails received by Politico, into university-funded construction and real estate projects that are enriching the Falwell family and their friends. One such project is a Lynchburg shopping center that is owned by the university, but which members of the Falwell family have a personal financial stake in operating. The university owns a shopping center, which is again the Falwell family has stakes in it. That's really interesting. Now, in an email dated July 18th of 2012, Falwell informed several university executives that his son, Trey Falwell, was starting a new company to do the management of properties owned by the school. So they buy up all these properties. They take student money, admission, buy up properties, and now they have a bunch of properties. And Jerry gets the idea, wait a minute. Now, who's going to manage those properties? I have an idea. My son's going to do it. My son's going to do it. Now, Trey Falwell, whose given name is Jerry Falwell III, is now vice president of Liberty University, as well as running a company that does the management of properties owned by the school. On August 7th of 2012, Trey registered that privately owned company, JF Management LLC, with Campbell County, Virginia. As the address of its principal office, he gave the location of a house where he and his wife Sarah, had resided. Technically, it's his Sarah. That is a clear case of corruption. Clearly. Again, buying up all this property and then saying, oh, we need a manager, pointing your son as a manager who also works at the university. I mean, that's obvious. Obvious. How more clear does it have to get? Now, the college, it turns out, also, while doing all this other stuff, managed to loan out money to Falwell's friends and family. I mean, come on, man. Now they're acting like a bank, not a school. Now, more disturbing revelations, right? And this is not related to the financial corruption, but actually the atmosphere inside the area. And one person, as I mentioned, quoted this as being run like a dictatorship, right? Now, they go on to mention, as to several others, that there is a culture of fear. In fact, one person is quoted as saying, "Nobody craps at the university without Jerry's approval." It's kind of a funny thing to say, but it's actually really indicative of that culture of fear. In fact, a current university employee who agreed to speak only after purchasing a burner phone, fearing that Falwell was monitoring their communications, said this: "Everybody is scared for their life. Everybody walks around in fear." Now, several people, and the fear is so palpable across not just the school, but the entire town. Residents who lack any tie to Liberty but live in the school's hometown of Lynchburg refuse to go on the record for the story, fearing Falwell would take revenge upon them and their families. One former senior university official said, quote, "Fear is probably his most powerful weapon." One current high-ranking university said this: "We're talking about the difference between right and wrong, not even being a Christian, but being a good person versus people who manipulate the system." So, culture of fear, culture of corruption, and decidedly unchristian-like behavior. Now, it's important to note that these people are not Libby Lib McBleeding Heart, right? These are people who had a huge love for Jerry Falwell and their moral majority. In fact, there was one person that was quoted in the story as saying, "When we lost Falwell, it felt like he was losing a father." That's how important they were. But you have the son, Jerry Falwell Jr., who is not following in his father's footsteps, apparently. So, again, these are people who mostly agree with the mission and have the most to lose, and they're telling you about his corruption. Falwell Jr. is 100% corrupt and a hypocrite. And not only does he rule his college with an iron fist, but the town as well. I mean, there's probably going to be more that comes out about this. So it's a developing story, but it kind of really does show you what religion in the wrong hands is truly capable of. And it's horrifying. Okay. Moving on. One last story for you guys. See if we can do it real quick.
Can you sip a steak? Tastes good. It's kind of the vapors of the steak.
That was Laura Ingraham trying to drink a steak through a straw. Oh, and that steak was, of course, stuffed with incandescent light bulbs and covered in plastic straws because she's insane. Proving once again that the right wing has become a parody of itself. Apparently, she was trying to trigger and own the libs. Well, congratulations. You basically just got everybody to laugh at you. I mean, insanity. So now, this was apparently in response to a climate town hall held last week, in which Democrats, because there were no Republicans, decided that they would talk about some of the issues that are facing our planet, as well as some of the solutions. So now she goes after Democrats, obviously, but actually calls out Andrew Yang for talking about incandescent light bulbs as being a little bit of a problem when it comes to climate change. Let's take a look at the full clip in context.
It's a meal that will trigger all the left people. Okay, are you ready? Are you really prepared for this? Okay. A warning, here it is. Okay. The ultimate trigger sculpture, a kind of culinary sculpture. It has everything the Democrats hate: steak, plastic straws, and light bulbs. And if I could have put an SUV on this, I would have. Okay. Can you sip a steak? Tastes good. It's kind of the vapors of the steak. Oh my God. Don't ask me how we came up with this. But these are the light bulbs that Andrew Yang said are so dangerous to the planet because they burn out too often. I have a question. When you push that into the steak, is there any conduction whatsoever?
I'm sorry, I can't watch that clip and not laugh hysterically. The thing is, we're not laughing with you, Laura. We're laughing at you. That's hilarious. Hey, you know what? Whoever said the right can't do comedy, no, that's comedy. That's perfect. Complete and utter insanity. Again, she's like, don't ask me how we came up with this. I want to ask because I'm sure it involves some sort of drugs. And if so, can you share? I'm just saying. No, they thought, no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna own some libs with this steak, which, by the way, like, the steak looked pretty good. I could see that it wasn't. It was more like it was like a medium rare. So now I'm hungry. I love steak. Just for the record, I love steak. I like, I use plastic straws, and so this is not what liberals hate. No, what liberals hate is ridiculousness. What we hate are climate polluters getting away with whatever the hell they want. So, and among other things, right? So now let's get to the substance here about Andrew Yang. So now Andrew Yang says, look, these incandescent light bulbs, they are a danger. They burn out quickly, and they're not as energy efficient. So maybe we should do something about it. Okay, great. So now he says he's not in favor of Donald Trump's efforts to end energy efficient standards on light bulbs, which, by the way, this was back in 2007. This was George W. Bush, right? He's like, hey, let's do some energy efficiency standards. And then Obama later on said, okay, let's now expand that. So this was Obama's order. It was going to start having an impact soon. But Trump said, oh, if Obama did it, well, then I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Got to get rid of it. Got to get rid of it. And so here we are. So now here's the thing. Energy efficiency is a smart thing. It's not a stupid thing. Who wants to pay more for energy in order to own the? I don't quite understand. LED bulbs, they last longer. They don't burn out as fast. They're actually fairly inexpensive. They last at least up to 10 years. They use less energy. I mean, Imagine being against that, saving money. No. I want to buy light bulbs more often. I want to pay more in energy costs. Take that, libtards. Now watch me drink straw through a steak through a straw. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. And I mean, look, you can even leave climate change out of it, right? Who wants to pay more for light bulbs? Who wants to waste more energy? Imagine being proud of being that stupid. But look, this ignorance is kind of what people, I mean, that's what they're proud of. That's what they want. I mean, I remember talking to somebody who didn't like the government told automakers that they had to include seatbelts in cars. And I was thinking, wait, but seatbelts are generally a pretty good thing. They've saved numerous lives by, making sure that people don't go through the front window and die in an accident. And they said something along the lines of, yeah, but, I want the freedom to be able to choose whether or not I die in a car accident from going through the windshield or not. I mean, these people, they're like, it's insanity. It's insanity, but it's an insanity that happens to be killing us. Now, again, plastic straws and beef were involved in that. And here's the thing, right? So now I've talked about the plastic straw ban. I think the heart's in the right place, but come on. Banning plastic straws. You think that's going to solve the climate crisis? No. Now, the problem with plastic straws, especially with recycling those straws, is they get everywhere. They're very hard to recycle, right? That is a problem, right? But again, they're not a main driver of carbon emissions. Plus, there are people who cannot use paper straws who actually have to use it, people with disabilities that need those plastic straws, right? So now if you want to talk about agriculture, about consuming meat, well, that's significant. That does add a lot to carbon emissions. Now, that doesn't mean we're in favor of banning cows. That's ridiculous. Or airplanes. No, the most thing that liberals tend to say is, hey, why don't you make a voluntary decision to have meatless Mondays and cut down a little bit? That's all we're asking. It's just to cut down just a little bit. And look, here's the thing. All that does is help a little bit. And I say a little bit because right now, the main drivers of climate change, 100 companies, multinational corporations, are responsible for 71% of all the emissions. Yeah. All the greenhouse gases, 71% of the corporations are responsible. So all the paper straws in the world won't add up to eliminating the amount of greenhouse gases that just some of these companies emit. But the people like Laura Ingraham, those companies, they're fantastic. They're great. They're capitalism, baby, right? Oh, they love the pollution. Why? Because it helps them to get paid. It's the corruption. It's the donors, by the way, too. Fox News gets paid in advertising by fossil fuel companies. You know who else also gets paid? CNN, MSNBC. You can't turn on either of those channels without seeing an ad for natural gas fracking. All of cable news is awash in fossil fuel money, which is why activists had to fight and push and publicly shame these networks into getting just a town hall about climate change. And remember, that was not even going to happen in the first place until there was a massive pushback from people who actually give a crap. But unlike Laura, we do give a crap about the environment that we're leaving to the next generation, because like it or not, they're going to have to live in the world that we create for them. And I, for one, as I'm assuming a lot of you, actually would love to leave it better than when we actually found it. But for people like Laura, all she cares about is her paychecks, and everything else be damned. Okay. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please consider becoming a patron, supporting us at patreon.com/TYTNation, or becoming a channel member right here on YouTube by hitting the join button below. Thank you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.